Sup y'all, it's AngeloTangelo. It's been a good long while since we've revisited The Sims 2 on PC, and today I have a very special episode for you that I've worked very hard on.
What?
Instead of the usual gameplay, today we're doing something a little different. I was inspired by another creator to try out a Sims 2 challenge. This particular challenge is very similar to the Rags to Riches challenge, only I've taken a few things and modified them, and added some rules of my own as well. This is my first video like this, so there's bound to be some hiccups. But we're just gonna ignore that for now. If you don't know what the Rags to Riches challenge is, it's essentially playing as an adult sim with an empty lot and only having a very small bit of money to live off of. You work your way up to the top of your chosen career and fulfill your lifetime want. After achieving that, then you could get married and start a family. I'm not doing this specific challenge per se, but I am trying a very similar one. I want to find out if I'm able to go from absolutely zero on an empty lot and work my way up to a really big house with just one sim and no job. That includes bartending, because that is technically a job in The Sims. It's kind of a side thing, but it's a job. Anyway, here's a list of my rules for this challenge. We are starting out fresh with nothing on an empty lot. Having any job is not allowed, including family pets. No money cheats or abusing glitches to alter family funds. No motive or aspiration cheats are allowed. This includes aspiration rewards. There are no jobs in this challenge, therefore no career rewards are allowed. The final home must have at least 3 stories. We're gonna assume that all community lots are too far to walk to, so we would have to have a car if we want to go out. Since The Sims 2 came out in 2004, we're gonna assume that DoorDash, Postmates, and any other similar services do not yet exist, and all groceries have to be purchased at the store. Pizza and Chinese takeout are okay. Taxis would technically be okay, I guess, but I never used them during this challenge, so whatever. Those are the rules, so let's jump into it. In creating my sim for this challenge, I had one thing on my mind: money. I wanted him to be well dressed and have aspirations of wealth and success. It was perfect for owning the name Mr. Big Shot. I needed him to care about his surroundings and be friendly enough to have friends, all while being serious about his end goal: fortune. It was time to shine, but not with the $20,000 we were given. We were starting from scratch, so I chose a large 5x4 lot. Choosing the largest lot always ends badly for me when I'm designing these houses and filling the rooms, so just roll with it. Alas, this land was mine, sweet dirt below, but there was just one problem. We had to get rid of the $8,000 before starting the challenge, so I bought the most expensive piano twice and forced errors on them both to erase them from existence. Perfect. He'll never know the difference. With no time to waste, it was time to begin my journey. So I began digging for treasure. And then it hit me. A rock, while I was digging. And then a map. And then a bone. And of course the mysterious wonders of what could be in the pink gift box at my non-existent doorstep. But I continued to dig until I struck a water line, stressing out my poor environment as my new neighbors attempted to mop up the mess that I created. But none of that stopped me from trying. Still no luck, so I decided to take the computer that Mr. Humble generously left for me on the sidewalk. Then it was time to sell my treasures that I had acquired from the ground so I could purchase some form of shelter. Almost $2,000. Not nearly enough for a nice bed and fridge, so back to digging. More treasures to sell. This might be enough, so I bought the most expensive fridge available. And then on to beds. For those, I bought what I could afford. I enjoyed my first meal and then had my first night's sleep. Fortunately, my nightmares weren't the only thing to keep me company at night. I had the protection of strange dogs wandering around my bedside whilst I slept. And yes, I added wants and want locks, which is technically an aspiration cheat, but I didn't finalize my rules until after finishing the challenge, so let's roll with it. Back to digging. At 4 a.m. It wasn't always the easiest task, but I pushed onward through the busted water lines. Then the bills came. $60. I had plenty.
No!
After paying my first set of bills, I realized I was dangerously malnourished, so I consumed my second instant meal and decided to treat myself to some gelatin, enough to last the whole day. I saved some leftovers for later. After selling my recent findings, I made over $800, so I bought a cheap shower which fulfilled one of my wants. And then I soiled myself in excitement. More digging led to more money. I was able to purchase a wall for my new toilet, which I desperately wanted. I slept for a few hours and then decided to daydream, for it was my only source of social without others around. I spent my morning thinking about people I barely knew at all, including my best friend. The next morning, I met some new friends and resumed my duties in the rain. After another sale of goods, It was time for shelter from the storm. It would keep me safe from the thunder and lightning. Then I pounded another instant meal. And then I met Bruce. What a guy. The newspaper crossword improved my logic and kept me entertained while taking breaks from digging. Finally, all my rocks and treasure maps that I found gave me enough to build a proper small home, with even enough room to put my bed inside and out of the pouring rain. I bought an easel to paint and counters for preparing meals. Then I began my first creation. By this time, I had acquired enough aspiration points to obtain a money tree and slowed down the decay of my needs with lifetime aspiration benefits. That sound definitely won't get old. I sold my first painting for $2, achieved my want for making some money, and also invoked fear of a fire somehow. Like, what fire? My first harvest brought in 40 small. Many paintings later, I was able to buy a cheap table and folding chair, but not enough for a computer. Eventually, the paintings and money tree harvesting just weren't enough for what I was trying to achieve, so back to digging I went. Until the snow came, so back inside to sell my art. Now I had enough for a computer, so it was time for my first novel to rake in the cash. It's about not knowing what to do when you're stuck in the pouring rain or snow and feeling stuck, but eventually making a lot of money. For kids. Yes. Finished. All I needed was a title and a description. How I went from 0 to 60. Buy my book, I need money for food. The book made a killing and supplied me with almost $4,000. I made friends with the delivery driver, who so kindly placed my work of art on the ground in the snow. Soon, popularity would ensue. Even my good friend Bruce would call to congratulate me on my book, so I began working on my second novel, this time a cookbook about soup. Only soup. Yes, without any cooking skills at all, I managed to earn $2,300 off a book about cooking. With my earnings, I built a driveway with a garage and expanded my small home to triple the size. It was the beginning of success, but not much left for bills. My good friend Bruce was calling to check in with things regarding the house, and then I went back to digging and sold my treasures. Somehow I managed to destroy my toilet while building, so I could now afford a new one. I had just enough money to where I could now be picky about my stoves and ovens. Only the best for Mr. Big Shot. After mopping up rain puddles to build my cleaning skill, it was time for me to purchase a vehicle so I could replenish my fridge with food. It was the best I could afford, but gas is expensive. So I decided to buy a counterfeit simoleon machine with my aspiration points. So I began doing that. A call from Bruce again, then back to counterfeiting. Until the cops came. I was lectured and had my machine confiscated, but I was able to grab what was left. And then I was fined $1,000. I acquired my $588 without consequence, but no doubt I was ashamed. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough aspiration points for another machine. Time for safer methods. I bought a bunch of money trees. They were a great help, but nothing beat the outcome of buried treasure, except this time where the outcome was lightning and urine. Oh, the urine. While I waited out the storm, I harvested my money trees. Little did I know this would be the rest of my life. When the rain lifted, it happened. I found treasure, a whole chest's worth. I sold it all, including the treasure, for $5,000. The wealth was on its way. More harvesting, more paintings sold. It was time for the most luxurious part of this little house, floors. I upgraded my doors, painted the inside and out, installed windows, upgraded my kitchen, and gave my computer a proper desk. A little more help from the money trees, and I was able to buy my first bookshelf. I fulfilled a desire. I was then able to unlock the ability to give financial advice online for money. So I did that for some time, sold another painting, and harvested more cash from my potted friends. And apparently the desk I had wasn't nice enough, so I upgraded that to make myself happy. Success. I expanded the front entrance of my home, added some more tile and paint, a ceiling fan, and remodeled my roof. All for the decorative want. My third novel was sold for $3,200. I sold my mediocre bed for the finest one in the catalog and made over $300 from a second counterfeit simoleon machine. I was definitely in the money now. It was everywhere. But sometimes the best lessons learned are the hardest ones. I was again able to grab my earnings before the police could confiscate the machine. In using the toilet, I was able to shoo the cop out of the room, but still get fined $1,000 again. They left my machine behind, but it was now worthless, so I had to get another one. I decided to write another novel for a higher payout and harvest more cash. After of which I resumed my illegal printing, but even on the gold aspiration my machine overheated from all that dough. I quickly extinguished the fire and disregarded the risks because money. Then I began my next novel, Romance in the Zoo. and the description. Yes, almost $3,000 for it. Time for a new TV. I also upgraded and shuffled some things around in my bathroom, but I just wanted the TV. So far, this is the first story of the house. Back to counterfeiting funds, I made sure to keep a close eye for my aspiration meter for dropping below gold to avoid the police again. I worked hard for this $256 and befriended the very officer that had busted me twice now for printing my own simoleons. Maybe with us being friends, she'll go easy on me. I then made the discovery that I was very late on paying my bills. A whole $102. I must make up for it by harvesting the cash from my money trees. And then another bundle from a legal tender. $720. A book about money. This one. Yes. The Beautiful Money book was born, and its sole purpose was to give me more of it. It's a hit, a bestseller. So why stop there, I said. I will write an adventure novel about spacemen, rockets, and aliens, with Harry Potter on the cover. Yes. I wrote all night, until sunrise, and it was morning. And then it happened. Wait for it. Wait for it. Yeah, there it is, a genie lamp. Fortune awaits. This was the break I've been searching for. After rubbing the lamp and summoning the genie, of course I wished for wealth. And fortunately enough for me, the wish came true. And it came in giant bags of cash from the sky. Even during household tasks, more and more money rained in. After using my first two wishes on wealth, sold a painting, and grabbed from my secret stash, I had over $50,000. But this was it. One wish left. And of course I wished for money, which brought my total to almost $80,000. It was finally time for the second story of the house. A few adjustments here, a few adjustments there. I prettied up all the existing doors and windows as well as my furniture and appliances. Only the classiest, fanciest products will do. I molded my new kitchen, which included an island countertop. I traded my old bookshelves in for bigger, more mysterious ones, a fireplace, and a private office to go with all that. Then I ran into the issue of, $24. And then I had remembered that I had some old doors to sell that gave me enough to paint the walls and install some flooring, made some roof adjustments, and then I ran into the problem of, $2. Oh. Overall funds aside, I couldn't hold in my excitement. Was this true happiness? All the nice fixtures and appliances certainly did put a spring in my step as I telepathically obtained my morning paper for the daily crossword puzzle. But not everything in The Sims 2 is peaches and cream. My lack of house lights, expensive taste, and my slumbering had attracted an unwanted visitor, a burglar. As he entered through the front door, my home security alarm had already alerted the authorities. I quickly rushed downstairs to confront the thief in the act until the police would arrive as I passed by him on the staircase. I quickly ran back up as the police followed behind me. She tackled the thief quick and put him in handcuffs. As I sat there and watched.
Bye, bitch!
The thief was placed in the back of a police cruiser, and I was rewarded $500 for helping the police catch the criminal. Good thing I made friends with the same cop that busted me for the counterfeit money incident. And let's go ahead and finish these walls. My daily call from Bruce was filled with concern from the home invasion incident, of course calling to make sure I was okay. Then I wrote another bestseller. I constructed a multi-story outdoor staircase that led to the rear balcony. Some fencing and railing here, and some, Damn it! In my efforts of saving money, I attempted to grow my own food with a garden, which overall didn't work and never worked during multiple attempts in this challenge. After my usual paint and harvest methods for earning money, I decided it was important to install some lights and illuminate the way for the sake of my environmental needs and to ward away thieves from ever returning to my kingdom, and a chess table to kill the loneliness during my downtime. After a quick call from my friend Lindsay, I started crafting toy robots and selling them until I had enough to put in sliding doors, so there would be access to both balconies. Flooring coming soon. But then Lindsay showed up at my door. I greeted her and gave her a romantic hug. Is this what love feels like? It was amazing. I couldn't contain myself or establish any self-control, apparently. Afterwards, I went back to cranking that crank. Money. After I was done counterfeiting simoleons, it left me with enough funds to paint the exterior of my home, add classier driveways to the front of my house, and match it up with a new walkway that led to the front door. But once again, I got busted. This time by a different cop, but he didn't take my machine, so I was able to grab my $480 before he disabled it. I decided to cheer myself up by purchasing a pool table. Maybe it will curb my failures. After my nightly money harvest routine before bed, I was broken into again. The police showed up just the same as last time, but the thief made his way straight to my hot tub, sucked it up, and pulled it out of the ground, somehow carrying it away with him. He was then tackled and arrested. I got some money back from the stolen hot tub, but they cost over $7,000, and they only gave me $3,400. I tried to catch back up by harvesting my money trees, and then another burglar broke in. Like, what the hell? My bills were also on the rise in cost, and then my shower broke, and then my other shower broke. After publishing a few more novels and accumulating help from the money trees, I built an indoor gym on the second floor of my home. I needed to bulk up to intimidate the thugs that planned to steal from me. But we had a ways to go. Asleep later that night, it was after 7 p.m. and I needed the rest. But to avoid another intruder, I had to be awake and alert during the night, so I kept myself occupied by painting and calling Lindsay before it got too late. Then the morning finally came and I finished my meal and went off to sleep the day away. After my slumber, I discovered my food supply had run out, but after a previous mistake with this challenge, I learned to keep emergency food in my inventory in case of such a situation. Still hot straight out of my pocket. And in the meantime, apparently I was developing enemies that were jealous of my wealth, flaunting the house into the neighborhood like a peacock amongst turkeys. And also, elephants are aliens. Let's hope it sells. Yes, almost $4,000 in sales. Afterwards, with the telescope, I gained enough science enthusiasm to locate planets for some extra cash. 2 payments of $500 left me with just over $7,000. Then it was time for some emergency burgers for dinner before it was then necessary for me to go shopping for groceries. After I arrived, I bought a large supply of persimmons. $600 worth of persimmons. Now that my fridge was stocked, it was time for another novel. My nightly routine of harvesting my money trees before bed began to get repetitive, but at least they were easy with little downsides. Keeping myself happy and fulfilling my wants often kept me at a gold aspiration level, which helped me in scoring more money from the money trees. I used the money to illuminate my dark house with plenty of light. The plan was to buy solar to relieve my electric bill, but a hefty cost per panel. Funds I didn't have. After selling my latest masterpiece, I was then able to afford 2 solar panels, but only 2 panels. Not enough to eliminate my weekly power bill entirely. And then a new novel. An edgier novel. Yes, it scored me over $4,000. Then, like a superhero, I was called upon to save my lover from a vicious beast and comfort her from the danger that threatened her very life. Finally, the solar started to pay itself off. I was down to my last plate of emergency burgers, which I decided to share with Lindsay. We each grabbed a plate and ate separately because I forgot I locked my doors to outsiders. Like a gentleman, I ate at the table. Without her. We said goodbye for the night and I began my routine again. I splurged on new clothing storage such as a dresser and installed a closet. Added a bathtub and began constructing the second upper-level kitchen. Unfortunately, I only had enough funds for the flooring and 1 countertop, but it was a fancy countertop. Novel time. Transportation. Cars and shit. Yes, $4,200. And then my third money novel. For kids. Money 3, the complete trilogy. The third book in the series. Keep buying them up, y'all. Thanks. Yes, $4,100. And another novel. Ratatouille. Get it? 'Cause rats. Sickness. Almost $5,000. My best seller thus far. It was time to build again. I resumed my constructing by making a theater room, so dark to keep the light out. I had the second level painted and added some doors. A small break in between building for some more cash. I loaded the home up with windows. Natural light was everything fancy, and I needed all of it. I covered everything from the bottom to the third level with nice large windows. I also had the space to utilize, so I moved my telescope and grill up to the rear balcony. I worked the night shift, digging for treasure and harvesting cash until I realized that instead of destroying my yard, I could do it publicly. Off to Sue's secret kitchen to dig. And that's when I ran into my nemesis who robbed my house, Ammon Bear. As I was digging for treasure outside and completely ruining the entire landscape of the restaurant, Ammon was inside causing harm to others and filling the room with sadness. He had to be stopped. So like the hero I am, I jumped on the thief to save the day while others stood by and booed me for my bold decisions and radical ways. But somehow, justice always prevails. My job here was done, and I found shiny things there. So of course I went back, and I dug. I dug until I hit a bunch of water lines and terrified the elderly visitors. My earnings added up quickly, now into $12,000. Then Lindsay stopped by my house to, let's just say congratulate me on my victories. As I woke up, alone, I began my day harvesting cash and eventually building my first servo, which I would then sell for $6,000. I spent that servo money assembling my upstairs kitchen. I made sure to have a bar with an espresso machine and a juicer for drinks. I built an indoor stage for various instruments and covered the whole thing with fancy red carpet. And chairs. Lots of chairs. For the audience. Oh. At least my bills had decreased from having solar, but I needed to eliminate the power bill entirely, so I bought even more panels and harvested even more cash. And somewhere along the way came another book with a very detailed description. Yes, this won me almost $5,000. I expanded using the space upstairs to form another bathroom. And of course, I went back to Sue's kitchen, but not to fight. I went there to do what I did best, make money, and of course destroying private property. And being the crazy person that submits hot dogs, the easiest meal to grill on The Sims 2, to a food contest and expecting to win. But I was in it for the cash, and I earned my $500 reward, somehow. I emptied out my inventory, which contained 3 treasure chests, each worth $5,000. I had nearly $30,000, and I knew I was nearing the end of my journey. I finished setting up lights throughout the house, inside and out. I even constructed an indoor bar/restaurant alongside the stage of the 3rd level of the house. All the latest appliances and furniture, then added some cozy night cityscape wallpaper. It was perfect. The bills came, and although inexpensive, I had to add more solar to reduce them even further. Back to Sue's! I began digging for treasure once again on their property. It was a hard, time-consuming job that drained me of my hygiene, but I kept reminding myself that this is how I'm going to make it. And I will make it, I thought to myself as my destruction led others to clean up after my messes. After a long night of digging, I ate, and then slept. Then ate, then slept. Then ate, then slept. Once I sold a bunch of rocks and bones, I was then visited by the social bunny to ensure that I don't go crazy. Or, more crazy. Finally, my solar was paying off. I received $93 back from having my panels. It may take some time for them to pay themselves off, but less weekly expense for me. Novel time! And what better title for my 22nd novel? Jeez. Yep. Another high payout helps a lot. Hey, guess where we're going? Dig, fancy boy, dig! I found a lot of great things in the ground, including a treasure map valued at $400 and a treasure chest valued at $5,000. That one's my favorite. Time to build. I started with a half bath on the 3rd level, some windows and curtains for the theater room, and what's a mansion without a game room? Espresso machine and everything. Then I swept the top level of the house with lights. Anywhere and everywhere. And to top it off, added a stereo system in the bar and in the game room. But I didn't have much left over. My romance with Lindsay became uncontainable as the wealth showered over me and success was imminent. Suddenly all of my worries were fading as my dreams became more and more a reality. But for the sake of the challenge, I had to control my urges for commitment until I achieved my goal. So I kindly asked her to sleep over. For the night. We played a few rounds of pool in our swimwear, and as sweet as our romance movie relationship was, not every sim is quite as lucky to have gotten to this point. In The Sims 2, you often have a choice, live or die, and I chose live, to the fullest extent I saw fit. We fell asleep together during the day, of course, because burglars at night. I'm still mad about my hot tub. Aw, guess what time it is, y'all? Time to win a food contest, that's what. Which I did. Give me my $500. And I was also there to dig. Lots of digging. Once again, in my effort to locate treasure, I instead attracted worried Sims who offered to clean up the water spill from the pipes I had busted. I sold my findings and contest ribbon, which left me with $17,000. Of course, I had to buy a Camaro. I just wish it was a 4th gen and not a 5th. I also had enough funds to buy a project car to restore. Not everyone would think it's necessary, but it's what I had wanted. And I made sure to get the alarm installed. After days of work and restoration, I finally had everything on my project car working. All I needed was paint. And what sports car would be complete without a sweet paint job? And yes, of course, flames on the fenders. Then another alarm installation. I was now at the end of my journey and had some last-minute adjustments to make. With a fountain up front, I could look out my window and see how much better I was from everyone else in the neighborhood. But of course, there's always a downside to everything. A measly $9 left. But this was my home. I built it from the ground up. I lived in poverty, single and jobless. Had things stolen from my home. I lived in fear and was traumatized to sleep at night. I worked hard with my own two hands to build this luxurious home from nothing. I may not have the best design choices or certain amenities like a swimming pool, but I was more than satisfied with where I had come from and what I had accomplished. This was my home, and it's where I lived, and it's where I fell in love, and it's where I'll die. This video took forever to make, so I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for your support. I'll see y'all soon, but until then, take it easy.
Yeah.